this is increasing your average price point. This is our agenda today. Lots of you guys, I know we're doing guaranteed goals, and a handful of you guys have actually set a specific goal to increase your average price point this year. And we love this goal, and we want to give you some resources and ideas on what you can proactively be doing to do that. I will tell you, this is one you can be super intentional about it and you can do all the right things. Um, there's no like guarantee slam dunk, this is for sure going to work, but you're putting yourself in the position to do it. There's also like no, unfortunately, like magic wand you can wave and make this happen. It's just hard work and a few of these steps. So here's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about why we might have this goal. We're going to talk about characteristics of producers with high average price points. We're going to discuss how you can prepare yourself to for an opportunity. We're going to learn how to create the opportunity, and then we're going to review these steps that you can take. So that's kind of our general direction that we are heading. So the question is like, why are you here? Like, why do you want to increase your average price point? Feel free to share. This is always more exciting when you guys talk. Anyone want to share why? I mean, there's no right or wrong answer. Some of you might just need CE, which is why you're here. More income, amen. So Tessa said more income, and I think that's true. You can close less units and make the same amount of money, right? If your price point is higher. Emily says work smarter and not harder. That's right. That's what both of these are, right? Close the same number of units, but make more money. Reach your goals more quickly. Sometimes the deals are easier because people aren't so squeezed. If you get the $7,000 repair bill, it's not like the end of the world because at a higher price point that cash may be more available. Prestige, right? It's nice to sell big ones. They're fun houses to tour and sell. And the return on your time is higher, which is what Emily said, work smarter, not harder, which is very true. And Katie said just make more money for retirement, which totally makes sense. So first things first, let's talk about like mathematically, what are we trying to do, right? We're trying to go from average price point of this to average price point of this. And me being a big nerd, like you have to think about like the math, like how are we going to actually get there, right? So this is kind of obvious, but a lot of this stuff feels kind of obvious. It's just a function of doing the work. So let's talk through it. You can get one really big deal. You can eliminate your really low price deals. Because a lot of times, like, you might be spending a lot of time working with an investor who wants to find $80,000 lots, and that investor is a good client and they take up a lot of time, but you might do, 10 deals for them at $80,000, and when you could find like one client and do one deal, right? So, eliminate the really low price ones, which I realize is hard to turn away business sometimes.
I'm gonna be tied up for an hour.
Uh-oh. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So get a few deals that are, higher than your current average, right? So just like inch up that way, or obviously selling in a rising market. Like we've all probably experienced an increase in our average price point over the past few years as prices have, really increased. So those are kind of obvious, but it's worth talking about, right? So these are just some examples. So this is an agent, like if we look at our base year and the average is 400 and they did 7 deals, one way for them to experience a 10% increase is to 440 is, pretty consistent deals, but he added one deal that was just 100 over his highest price. And so it raised him, a little bit. And then in the second scenario, this agent does consistent business, but they added 2 bigger deals, right? And more of his deals are over the average price point that he's looking for than under. So that's going to like move it up too, right? And then the third one is this agent I call it the get lucky situation, right? You have like kind of an outlier that's really much higher, and that really helped. But that's okay. You can also notice that he didn't do his lowest price deal. So again, these scenarios are just for illustration. There's nothing like magic about this. It's just to help you realize like what needs to happen in order for you to move that average up a little bit, if that's one of your goals. So I guess why are we doing this, right? Like just to show you, you can increase your average price point with a slight shift in your business. You just need to figure out how to do like a few deals that are above it, right? So the question is this really realistic to think that you can increase your average price point? And my answer is yes, but, right? It's a hard challenge. It's not one that we can fix it just by like wishing it, right? I kind of said this at the beginning. You can take steps that are going to lead you there, but you have to be really intentional. And I mean, you may get lucky and randomly score, which is awesome. But there are also like actions and strategies and specific tactics you can take to increase the likelihood that you get lucky, right? And that's what we're going to talk about today. Increase the likelihood that you get lucky and then be successful with that opportunity when you do get lucky, right? Um, so it people, like I said, are throwing this out there as a goal, which is awesome, but it's a long game, right? It's not something that I'm like, I'm going to make this happen this month, right? It's a long game. You're looking at probably your average price point over the course of a year at least. So one of the challenges that we have is that, my sphere isn't necessarily a super higher price point group, and I wasn't like born into a higher price point, or those aren't necessarily my connections. So can I still do this? And I think the answer is yes, right? Sometimes I would say like being an outsider or like an unknown or someone who's not connected is beneficial because people in higher price points like actually don't want the person sitting across from them at the dinner table or in their group, like knowing their business. That's not everyone. Obviously, a lot of people like to work with people that they know, like, and trust, but there are people out there that are like, I know my wife's best friend is an agent, but I actually don't want my wife's best friend like all up in our business handling this business transaction for her. So it goes both ways. Um, so being connected to this brand, I think is super helpful. And we actually got like one of our really highest price point listings. I'm looking at my notes when I wrote this class was because the seller specifically told the agent, he called in off of phone duty and told the agent, like, we know lots of agents, but we want the brand and we actually don't want to work with someone who knows us personally. And it was like a crazy, like $13 million listing or something that came in off of phone. So that's one of my pro sneaky trips. You're not going to see it anywhere in the slides, but I will tell you, since we changed over to the new phones, we're being really intentional about kind of tracking how many leads we're getting and if people answering phone duty are getting great listings. And we've had in January, I've heard of 2 agents getting calls to do listings. At one was at 5 million, they went earlier this week, and one was at like 6 to 7. So that does not happen every phone duty shift. But I can tell you 2 times this year, the phone has rang with people who are like, we want someone from Sotheby's to list our house. And it was like a very high-end home. So phone duty is a valuable way to do this. That's a great way to get lucky. That is that. I'm gonna keep going. So then let's talk about what are the common characteristics of agents that you see that have high average price points, right? And why is this worth discussing? And I think it's worth discussing because when we talk about what they are, like you'll see it's not all just that they like have been going to the country club since they were a kid, right? It's a lot of hard work. So let's talk about, like, does anyone have suggestions? You can put them in the chat, you can unmute. I don't want to talk to you guys for an hour because that gets boring. But that's okay. So I would say like most of them that like have a very high average price point, they're experts, right? They're knowledgeable. They're not like accidentally tripping over all this very high-end business, right? Like they know what they're doing and they're very good at it. I would say they're business oriented. The people that own higher price point homes have like probably worked very hard to afford them and appreciate someone who's very good at what they do and handle this like a business. They're hardworking. They're market experts for sure. They can say off the top of their head, oh yeah, and that price point, of course we see average price points of at least 600. And if the lot is over half an acre, you're going to get this much more. And they just know it, right? Michelle says they focus on specific neighborhoods and have thorough market knowledge. I love it. That's exactly right. They have a niche. They know their peers in the marketplace. I think that's an important one, right? Like, who the players are and who's doing the business there. And especially in this environment of like people doing things off market, you kind of want to know who's operating in the field. They're very professional. This goes back to being business oriented. They have a professional experience and they market effectively and consistently for sure. That looks different for everyone. Not everyone is advertising in one specific place all the time, but there is an intentional and consistent and effective marketing plan. And sometimes they're well connected, right? And even if you're not born well connected, you can become well connected, even if it's in the realtor community, right? Of like knowing who the players are and how they work. So I would say those are like common characteristics. Mark Cuban says this is not about money or connections. It's the willingness to outwork and outlearn everyone in your business. So obviously I'm preaching to the chorus here because you guys are here to like educate yourself and learn. And you work really hard. So the willingness to outwork and outlearn is what it's about. And I think that that's true. Okay, so let's talk about some actual like work and action items that you could do to help with your average price point. So the first one is like, you need to know your current numbers. Like, obviously, if this is our goal, we need to know like, where am I right now? And where do I want to be, right? And I will send you guys a worksheet after this class, everyone who's on this call. It's the basic like outline of what we talk about here, but it's also like, do you know your average price point for listings? Do you know it for buyers? Do you know what your list to buy ratio is, right? And then if you have had any outlier higher than your average price point transactions, like look at where those came from and not just be like, oh, that was from my sphere or that was from my friend Jill. Like specifically, it's like, where did that come from? Like that was from my friend Jill because we sit together at my son's softball games and she is connected to X, Y, and Z. Just really look at the connections that you have and where did those higher than your average price point deals come from and how can you nurture that? And then you need to know what is your yearly marketing budget. And that's part of the reason that I put that in there is just because you should have one. It doesn't necessarily have to be huge. I will say, like at Briggs Freeman, you pay a higher price point to be here because there's so much turnkey built-in marketing opportunities, but you still have to lean into it, right? You need to sign up for Social Bay and pay attention to that. You need to leverage the 6% and that the outlook that they just put out, like that's an amazing tool and resources that if you as an individual agent went and tried to have that created would be cost prohibitive, right? Like you couldn't do that on your own, but because you're here at Sotheby's and you're paying to be a part of this company, you have access to all of these resources. So you need to lean into them, right? There's so much that's created for you. It's just a function of incorporating it into what you're doing. I think that it's called Luxury Outlook. It's really cool. It's so fun to share. It's so fun to look through. It's so fun to learn because then you have talking points. So that just came out. Like, look that up and pay attention. I'm actually going to write a note about that because I want to make sure that you guys who are here with this specific goal, like, are plugged into leaning into that resource because it's awesome and it's beautiful and it's got really great information. Has anyone used that before or like had any success with it? Or it's called the Luxury Outlook. They do it every year. Part of what they've been focusing on for the past few years is the fact that there's this massive generational transition of wealth. So younger people are coming into wealth from their, boomer parents. And it's really interesting. And it's also like, I don't want to say it's very technical, but if you can understand it, it just makes you like sophisticated. And I think, that there's value there when you're talking to people to know that and be an expert. Okay. So define your goal. So with all of this information in mind, like what is your goal? You have to have a goal in order to hit the goal, right? We need to know where we want to end up in order to get there. There's so much power in writing something down and having a target. It's woo-woo, magic, science, law of attraction, whatever you call it. Having a specific goal and direction to head is very powerful. It's also very empowering where at the end of the year, when you look at it and you're like, that's crazy because I wrote this down on January 23rd and then I didn't really look at it again. And still sometimes you can end up there. So it's pretty powerful. So I would say pick a realistic goal, right? You can't increase your average price point by $1 million in 1 year unless you do stumble into one of those like $13 million listing opportunities. Luckily, but also you have to be prepared when you get that luck. So figure out a realistic goal. Is it 100,000? Is it, I would say 10 to 30% could be realistic of where you are now. So take a minute and write it down, or when I send you that research, like do the math and figure it out. How are we doing so far? Good? Oh, Sherry, you're the best. Sherry is awesome and amazing, and she just put the link to the Luxury Outlook in the chat. So thank you, Sherry. Are we feeling good? Thumbs up, comments, questions, thumbs up. Okay. Okay, so these are actions you can take to increase your price point, right? We're not just going to talk about it. So one, you can pick a market that you want to target and operate in. So that's one. You have to believe you can accomplish this goal and get your mind right and act accordingly. You have to create the opportunity yourself, right? By focus on yourself, focus on your sphere, focus on these actions. And then you also have to be prepared for that opportunity when it presents itself to you. If you're going to do phone duty and you do, I think the ladies that got the, you know, I think it was like a $5 or $6 million listing presentation from earlier this week, like you have to be prepared for that, right? It's hard to like scramble and get ready for that. I'm not saying that they were not prepared, but it's just start thinking now, like this is going to happen to me at some point in the future. So what is my process? If on phone duty on Monday, I get the $5 million listing call. Like, do I have a process in place? Like, what does it look like? What would I do? Right. One of the beautiful things about being at Briggs Freeman is that we do have Sherry and Maria and this amazing marketing department and this amazing marketing collateral ready to go. And it's not unusual for our agents to be going on listing presentations like that. So we have so much stuff available and at your fingertips. Of course, it might be a little bit overwhelming to like get yourself prepared for something like that. But again, part of the reason you're here is that you want access to all of these turnkey, beautiful existing resources. Do you need to do a little bit of legwork and make it your own and have your process in place? Absolutely. But do we have a lot of really good foundational materials for you to work from so that it's not like you're coming up with something out of nothing? 100%. Plus we have amazing staff that will like support you in doing that. My advice to you, and we're going to talk about this later, I'm getting ahead of myself, is like, do it now, not when you get that call and you have to go the next day and like scurry to do it, right? You should be practicing even on your lower price deals and on every deal as if it was your like white whale. Okay. James Clear, I love this quote, says, without hard work, a great strategy remains a dream. Without a great strategy, hard work becomes a nightmare. And I love that. So I think that's true. And you guys are here because you have this idea, but now you want to get some strategy in place. So that's what we're talking about. Okay, so one of these is like know the market you want to operate in, right? Like we have agents, I think, from every office on this call, which is awesome. So you just have to figure out where in your area is there a market that you could like really hone in on, right? And these are things you should know about a marketplace if you want to operate in there. How many homes are in that neighborhood? How many sold in the past 12 months? What's the turnover rate, right? Like it might be like, oh, there's 36 homes in this particular subdivision, but people never move. So that might be a hard one to focus on because there will only be occasional deals. So figure this kind of stuff out. What's the average sold price? What's the average price per square foot? What's the average size? Like who else operates there? Get to know them if you don't already. Go to every broker open house for listings in the marketplace. I'm going to get on like a tiny soapbox here, but we have amazing like team and listings here at Briggs Freeman. When someone on our team like puts a listing on broker open, we should be going and supporting them. A, to learn the market. B, just to be supportive, and C, because when you have a listing on broker open, like you want them to come for you, right? So it's really, really important. And I mean, if it's not a listing with our company, then see when they're having a regular open house and watch your emails for when they're doing broker opens and just go to if you want to learn a market, you should go to every open house that you can. And then also, obviously, you need to know the schools, you need to know private, public, you need to understand the taste and lifestyle of those who live in the area. Like I was in a really nice home the other day and I noticed that there was like wine. It was built years ago. And I noticed that there was like wine on display all around the house. And so I was like, is there a wine room? Because that is something for people that are operating and buying in this market. They probably want, not all of them, but it's probably something that might be interesting to them. So you just need to know, like, is this something that everyone at this price point wants, or is this not? Like, do you need at least 3 garage spaces and this one only has 2. Like, you should just know in this marketplace, like, what's normal, what's acceptable, what clients that live there want, right? Yeah, be knowledgeable on what finish out is standard or expected. Know the area restaurants, the attractions, the parks, the holiday events. Like, is this the street that like goes crazy at Christmas and every house is like, like, just, you should know that stuff and like be an expert, right? So it's a lot of homework, and you got to know your stuff, but that just takes time and work and being around a lot and paying attention. So, questions about this? This is kind of just basic, like, learn the market stuff, but it's important. So there's this one concept. This is the next like thing you can do. It's like called acting as if, right? So one of the great strategies for success. First of all, I love Jack Canfield. I've been reading him since I was a little girl, and I got like my first Chicken Soup for the Soul book, and then they kept coming out with more, and I would buy it like every time it came out. And then, funny enough, he wrote a book called The Success Principles that Laura Span gave it to me. Gosh, I think when I first joined Briggs Freeman 10 years ago, and she and I became friends and we started working together. I probably read the book like 5 times and listened to it at least twice. Like, it's so good. It's like chicken soup for the person with goals soul. It's really, really good. But one of his concepts, I'm also like a certified like Canfield trainer, just because I think the book to me was so powerful and I wanted to learn more. But it's called acting as if, right? One of the great strategies for success is to act as if you are already where you want to be. Think like, talk like, dress like, act like, feel like the person who has already achieved your goal. Like I was saying earlier, like, our mind is such a powerful place. That's why when we write affirmations, we don't say like, I will weigh X amount by this date. We say, I enjoy weighing this much, right? We're telling our mind that we're already there, right? We say our affirmations in the affirmative and fight that first battle, like with ourselves and that like little guy on our shoulder who's telling us we can't do it and that we're not that, right? So you have to act as if. It sends powerful commands to your subconscious mind to find creative ways to achieve your goals, right? It programs your reticular activating system in your brain to start noticing anything that will help you succeed, and it sends a strong message. So you basically, we all have like a subconscious, and we're biasing our own subconscious in the direction we want it to be by doing like affirmations and acting as if. So what does that look like? Dress the part, be conscious of the image. Barbara Corcoran says, if you want to be noticed, dress the part. This does not mean that you have to go and buy like your Gucci ensemble from head to toe. Like, that's not what this means. It means you don't need to take pictures like with your arms crossed in front of a Lamborghini. Like, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about being professional, right? And neat, like every day, right? Even if you don't have appointments, just be mindful about how you're presenting yourself, like out in the community and also to the other agents around you, right? Like, is this a person where if we're at the office and I'm in a jam because I have this listing and I have a listing appointment, but someone wants to see it, could I say, hey, can you go show this for me? And you're like ready to go, right? So just be mindful of how you're presenting yourself. Again, that does not mean we have to wear like coat and tie, just be professional, right? Russ always says, and I love this, you can't compensate for the work with the look, which I think sometimes people think that you can. Like, it's not about like the look, it's, you have to still work, but present yourself like professional. And then also to that end, like, be conscious of what you're putting out there on your social media. Obviously we're all human, we have lives, we don't look perfect or act perfect all the time, but just be cognizant of the amount of content you're putting out there. Years and years and years and years ago, I used to work with someone and people would say like, does that person ever work? Because all they were doing was posting like fun stuff all the time, like in the middle of the workday. And it was like, it's great that we have fun and do personal things, but also we need to make sure that there's like professional work content in there as well. And if any of you guys have thoughts or questions or comments about this, like, feel free to throw it out there. I would love to hear your reaction, because you might be like, I disagree with that, and that's okay. These are just general ideas, and you're going to have to take what you're hearing here and figure out like if any of this works for you. You're not going to hurt my feelings. And think about, do an online audit of your social media, right? Is everything professional? Is your life, are you presenting the right lifestyle image? Like, is everything current? Is it speaking up? Is your bio speak up to you, right? And make you sound like your best self. If you only sell investment properties, that's great. start going on tour of higher end homes and posting some of that as well, so that the type of content that you're putting out there real estate wise is mixed as well. You can always post glamour shots of like high value assets, things like that. We had a new agent, she's not new anymore, but she was new a while ago, and she was younger, so she was like, obviously I can't only post photos from like these beautiful luxury homes, like I have to have a mix, because I want to be mindful of who my clientele is, and I don't want to turn off the people that are like, well, I want to buy a, you know, $600,000 home or a $500,000 home, or my budget is only, you don't want to turn those people off, but like I said, just be professional. Spell and punctuate properly. Sale is a noun, sell is a verb. This is one, I'm like a nerdy stickler for vocabulary, but this is one that it just makes you sound more educated, right? Like, I know in Texas, they sound the same. Sale is the noun. Sell is the verb. So a lot, what I hear a lot is people saying, like SELL as the noun, and that's not the case. It's the verb. So, okay, that's me being like stickler. Create a positive affirmation for yourself to repeat every day, right? Like, act as if, like, figure out what are you telling yourself to get there. Incorporate some version of your affirmation into your elevator speech. That's acting as if, right? So if people are like, what do you do? It's not like I sell real estate. It's like, oh, I operate at I like to say elite level. That sounds a little bit snobby, but I always say, I work for a real estate agent, and our agents that are the advisors that work with us are like top performers, right? Because then it's like, we're not messing around, and it's not like random people that sell one house a year. And I don't mind saying that and like bragging about you guys, because that's true, right? This is a place for top performers. Gives the people that I'm talking to like some clue about what I do. And then, be prepared to converse as if you're the leading agent in the area where you're focusing, but also you can't just like spout out facts and not be cognizant of the person you're engaging with, but just have the information so that you can like mention it organically, or that if it comes up, you have the right kind of points to make. Be confident, be engaging. Remember your Ford if you're a ninja. Ask people about themselves. Like, just, these are all be a professional. There's nothing magical about this. Does anyone have reactions to this? Thoughts, questions? This seems pretty obvious. Okay. All right. So the next one is create the opportunity for yourself, right? So we understand how to act as if. We know about having the right mindset. You've got a market that you're educating yourself on. You're really focused. You think you can have some success in. So we need to keep setting ourselves up for the opportunity, but also we need to take some steps to create the opportunity. And there's two ways to think about this. You can think about actions that you're taking like for yourself, and then you can think about actions that you're taking with respect to third party and your sphere. So let's talk about things you can do like for yourself to create opportunities. Acting as if. You can offer to do open houses for agents with listings in this price point. It's a great one. Being at our company is fantastic because there's a lot of peers who are A, collaborative, and B, like have access to what you're talking about. Offer to help agents who operate within this price point. This is another one. Like we had one of our agents that when she was brand new, I think she did 12 deals, and all of them came from agents inside the company. Like, that's a crazy statistic, but she showed up, she was at every meeting, she presented super professionally, she communicated really well, and they trusted her enough to pass on this client that they maybe weren't necessarily going to deal with, but they wanted her to help. So I think that's a really smart way to do it. Market yourself properly, where people who own homes at higher price points will see you. Wall Street Journal, Reside, 360 West, DBJ, like figure out how to get in front of these people where they're looking. Create social media posts that support that you're operating in this space. And then, share the luxury content and listings in your newsletter and social media. Again, we don't have to be obnoxious about it or like taking photos, like leaning against a Ferrari, but like be authentic and sharing that this is a space that you're comfortable in and you operate in, right? Because you are, and you do, being at Briggs Freeman. Okay, so now we're gonna talk, so those are things you can do like just for you, right? So now we're gonna talk about creating opportunities like with your sphere. Um, you know, Jim Rohn says you're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And you're obviously in good company here because you've chosen Briggs Freeman, with a luxury brand and the best agents and the best management, and everyone wants you to be the best version of yourself. Like we are focused on being the best, right? So you made a good choice and a good place to start here, right? So think carefully about who you're spending time with and your networking time with and whether it's actually fruitful. And is there another opportunity for you somewhere that may make more sense? I used to be part of a real estate board. And at the end of the day, it was pretty time consuming and I didn't feel like it was making me better. And I know sometimes we need to do things to like give back to communities that we're in, but it was also a situation where I didn't really feel like I was having any impact. So I bowed out. I was like, this is not the highest and best use of my very limited time. So you have to just be conscious about where you're spending your networking time and who you're spending it with, and is there value there? I'm obviously not saying like abandon friendships, but you know what I mean. Like the example that I gave was like some of my work real estate time was dedicated to this group, and I was like, this group is not serving me, and this isn't even like a community service where I'm serving it, so this is dumb, and I left and I didn't look back. So these are places where you could have like valuing like networking opportunities, right? Like volunteering, charitable organizations, getting on a board if you can, like your networking groups, like agents at Briggs Freeman, like live and die by their networking groups. If you don't have one, you should think about building one and where do you get started. If you don't know that, talk to agents who are in them and see how that got started. But those are important. Sports and social clubs. I did one year when I did like 8 deals, like 3 of my deals came from my gym, and it was not a gym where I was like being obnoxious about talking, but they saw me getting up at 5 a.m. and meeting them there to work out. And they were like, this is a professional, hardworking person, right? One of them was like, one day when we were running, they were like, I saw you in the back of 360 West, right? This was years ago when I used to listen and sell. So it's all, everything comes together, right? Like they saw me working hard. They saw I was a professional person. I knew what I was talking about if real estate did come up. And then they were validated by like marketing that I had done. So it all comes together, right? How can you get involved with your community? Like absolutely you should be leaning into the Sotheby's network. That doesn't mean you need to spend $1 million and go to every networking event, but be intentional about figuring out who in your sphere is vacationing places or going places, and is there a person that you need to have there? Like I think anyone who lives where we live, like posting content from scenic Sotheby's is a no-brainer because so many people go to 30A. Like there's things like that you can do that just like lets people know like I'm part of this. And do networking. And then of course, builders are always a great way. They obviously builders who are building on spec are not building lower end homes. So that's a great content if you can work it. A lot of times they want you to work for a reduced fee. So there's like pros and cons to that, but this is not an exclusive list. It's just ideas of ways you can be intentional about how you're spending your networking time and who you're spending your time with. Good thoughts, questions? I'm looking at your faces. Nobody looks very entertained. Okay. Thank you. Okay. A smile and a thumbs up. I'll take it. Oh, and Justin's cute little girl. Okay. So, create the opportunity with your sphere. This is another one. Be a go-giver. There's a great book written by Bob Berg called The Go-Giver. And it's all about how, the more you help other people, the more you'll be helped. Oh, Emily, flash it up there again. I love it. She's not a plant. I did not ask her to do that. But it's a great book. It takes not a lot of time to read, but it's all about, Zig Ziglar says you can have everything in life you want if you just help other people get what they want, which I love. And this page here is like sphere opportunities, service people, where each one of you probably has most of these, right? So how can you help them and how can they help you? I will tell you, I used to work with an agent who said to her insurance person, like, look, I will be happy to refer people to you. Do you think you can refer people to me? And they were like, oh, I always refer this to this person. And she was like, okay, see you later. And she got a new insurance person because she's like, they openly told me, I will take your business. I am not going to help you with your business. So she moved on. So I'm not saying you have to do that, but just be intentional and mindful. And like when you help people, like they want to help you back. And here's again, a non-exhaustive list. You may want to do real estate, figure out who these people are for you and do a real estate review for them. And be like, hey, you did such a good job, like with my tax return this year. I really super appreciate that. I just wanted you to know, like, I was doing this for someone in your neighborhood, so I thought I would share it for you as well. That's not pushy, that's not invasive, that's just providing something valuable to someone who provided something valuable to you. Right? Thoughts? Good. So just, be mindful of that. Okay, so the last one we talked about, what are things I can do to create this opportunity for myself? The last one is, now you have to be prepared for the opportunity, right? You got to have the expertise. We've covered a lot. We've covered how we're presenting ourselves, how we're creating opportunity, the way we promote ourselves, our knowledge of the market, our networking opportunities. Like if we do all of these things, the opportunity is eventually going to present itself. It just will. It's just hard work and it's consistency, right? I'm not saying if you do these things for a month, like all of a sudden it's going to fall in your lap. It might, but it might take a little bit of time and just being consistent with the hard work. So you're doing all of these things. Now you need to be ready when this opportunity presents itself, whether it's in a month or 6 months, a year or whatever. So the first one is, be the expert, right? Like have a clear process, have a presentation, have collateral, act as if you're going on that, multi-million-dollar listing presentation. Every listing presentation you go on, right? Like there's no reason, like luxury is the experience that we're offering, right? It's not necessarily the price point. So take every listing opportunity you get to do it like you would be doing it if you do get that $5 million listing opportunity, right? Treat everyone as if it's a big one so that when the big one happens, like you're not doing anything new or different. It's just what you always do and it appears natural because it is natural because it's what you've been doing, right? And then another piece of this I always say is like study the contract. We offer a lot of training about the contract and making sure you guys are not just like experts in marketing and promoting yourself, but also like actual technical experts. And I hear from you guys how much like the people that you deal with and the people that do what we do are not usually experts on the contract like we are. And that makes me feel really good that we have the right people here who want to really not just do like the fun, sexy stuff of real estate, which is not always that much, but also like the not fun, like nerdy, understanding the intricacies of the contract, because that's really where you can create value and like strategic advantages for your clients, right? So, be an expert, come to whatever trainings you can, come to the office, be around the experts. Then the second one is like knowledge, right? Know the market. You have to study comps, you have to tour, you have to know what's going on, you have to talk to people. Like this is a business, information is power. The information is readily available to us. We just have to like lean in and organize it and learn it, right? This is not the fun part. Sorry, guys. Know the key players, just get yourself immersed in the space, become the experts. The next one is professionalism, right? Like be ready to present in a professional way always. Like, do you have if you do phone duty on Monday and you get the $7 million listing call for Tuesday, like, do you have something that you would wear? Do you know what your process is? And if you do get that and you're not quite prepared, then don't be afraid to ask for help, right? Again, we have so many resources here, not just marketing resources and tools and stuff that's prepared for you to use, like not just collateral, but like the people, like Sherry's amazing, Maria's amazing. All your managers are amazing and want to help you. Like when you get some big white whale, like any of us could be available to come with you on that listing presentation if you want. Or what happened the other day was this agent was like, I'm going to pull in another agent because they know that market better than me. So that to me, I love because it's this agent saying like, if I want to serve this client best, I'm going to live in abundance and share this and do better. So I love that. And sometimes when you do phone duty, you may get an opportunity that's not exactly in the market that you've studied so hard. And I think you need to acknowledge that and like make sure you're at least partnered with someone who really knows their stuff if you don't quite know your stuff yet. Okay, so just be ready when the opportunity happens, and if you don't feel ready, like lean into the team and let us help you get ready, right? Or reach out to someone, another agent who you knows is ready and just partner with them and learn from them. So, you know, details matter, so pay attention to them. And then, I guess the last question is like, how do we gain confidence in what we're doing when we get this opportunity, right? Like, how can we be confident if it's something that we haven't done before and it's something that's a little bit intimidating, like operating outside of our average price point or space, right? And this is the answer, it's not fun, sorry, it's practice, right? It's like do the work and be prepared, right? Take the actions that we've been talking about, like the opportunities will come. Again, they may not come this week, they might not come this month, eventually they will come. So how are you prepared when that opportunity comes up? It's practice, right? And like I said, every listing presentation you go on and every buyer consultation is practice. Even if it's a $200,000 buyer, like that's okay. They still should get every ounce of value from you and hear like your entire spiel. So if you aren't sure like what doing it the right way looks like I love you for realizing that about yourself. That's amazing. Find an experienced agent and ask if you can shadow them. If it's at an open house, if it's on a listing presentation, if it's with buyers. Not, is everyone going to say yes? No. Are there amazing collaborative agents at our company who are like leaders and also want everyone at this place to be the best, who are willing to take you under the wing? Yes, there are many. So don't be shy about that. You know, find a practice to partner scripts with, spend time at the office and around other agents and watch how they work and listen to how they phrase things and just be around them, right? We're a product of the people around us. So be around the right people. Have your process refined, know how you would handle your presentation and then practice it. And like I said, you do have current business, so act as if that business is the price point that you are aspiring towards and treat every deal like it's, you know, the white whale and do your homework, right? I guess the point is it would be a shame to do the hard work to get the opportunity and then like fumble the ball when you have the chance. So just, you know, do the hard work. That's the number one component of all of this, which sorry is not very fun, but it's effective, right? The top agents work hard. There's lots of moving parts, there's lots of to-do items, but if the goal is to increase your average price point and you really want to kind of control that and be intentional and not just like cross your fingers and hope, these are the steps you need to take. And it's a lot of them and it's overwhelming, but like how many people are on this call? A bunch. 24. Like there's at least 24 of you that could like figure out how to lean on each other and do this, which I love. So, summary. Ooh, and we're going to finish early, so please don't tell Trek. Let's summarize it. What are our takeaways here, right? Does anyone first, before I go through my takeaways, which is really not that exciting, does anyone here have something that they were like, ooh, that's good? Like I always tell people, like, you know, we have our training programs and a lot of them are core programs, which are like fundamentals of best practices for Briggs Freeman. But I always say, even when experienced agent comes to our core classes, like hopefully there's always at least one nugget that they were like, that was worth the time. So does anyone have anything that they are like, oh, that was good? Or, oh, actually, what do you think about this? Anyone want to share anything? You can put in the chat if you don't want to mute Tessa.
Well, I think starting off, like you started off like where the business was coming from. And it's really interesting because I looked at like the top buyers that I ever had. So that was very reflective for me and where I got them. So I thought that was a big takeaway today.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I love that. So I always joke that I'm like a 2-trick pony. And one of my tricks is the hot warm list exercise. And the other trick is the transaction audit. And transaction audit is when you look at your business and you really, really drill down to like the ultimate basic source of where that business came from, not just like Sphere or like kids school, but like really drill down and see. So that's helpful. And I appreciate that was helpful for you, Tessa. Thank you. Margaret says, incorporate some version of your affirmation into your elevator speech. Amen. Right? Like act as if, right? And just figure out what that really looks like. Sometimes the elevator speech is hard and summarizing what you do in like one sentence is also hard, but I think it's worth the time to like be intentional about exactly the words you're using when someone asks you what you do, right? Because you get like 20 seconds to make an impression and like leave that nugget in your thought. Like when I introduce myself to like a new mom on Whitney's soccer team, I have one chance to introduce myself. So what do I want her to remember about me when she sees my name in the group chat, right? So, okay, summary, know your numbers, know your goal. Target and know the market you want to operate in. And again, some of this was like being specific about a market. Some of this was just general. Believe you can accomplish this goal and act accordingly, right? Like act like you're already there. You know, create the opportunity for yourself by doing the different things we talked about, but also, you know, make sure you're prepared when the opportunity presents itself to you. And you're prepared because you're practicing, right? Like you've got your process in place, you've got your collateral in place, like you know what it would look like if you got that $12 million listing opportunity because you're already doing it with like your $600,000 and your $400,000, right? It's not going to be something new where you're like nervous. Obviously, you might be nervous if it's like something you've never done before, but like the more you can equip yourself to like be like, this is just like every other thing that I do, the better off you are. So let's see. This will take, you know, consistent, thoughtful action and execution of what we've talked about. And you might just get lucky, right? But you can increase your odds if you do all the steps we talked about here, and that's all we can really ask for. So one thing I do want to mention, because this came up one of the first few times that I taught this class, was I want to be clear here, like none of us need to abandon our existing business, right? Like obviously we have bread and butter and what we're doing is not working. Like there's a reason you're a Briggs Freeman, there's a reason you're a top producer, there's a reason you're the best of the best already. So you don't need to like change what you're doing. This is just kind of doing more with the intention of like getting some of those bigger deals. And maybe it is like for some of you, like, you know, I have this one client and I love them to death and I've been working for them a long time, but they take up so much time. And last year I looked at my numbers and I only did $700,000 worth of real estate for them. And you have to decide. So I'm not saying you need to do that. You just have to be intentional and thoughtful. Okay. So keep your bread and butter while you add these additional steps. It'll obviously make your existing business better also, right? Because we're just talking about like creating processes, creating opportunities, like being the best when we get the opportunity. So thoughts, questions, sarcastic remarks, feedback?
Zareen,
Yes.
I'm just curious if there's any agents that are on this call who have done this, if they would share or are willing to share what they found that's worked for them. Not to put anybody on the spot, but if they're willing to share, that would be great.
Like increase their average price point?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm looking at the names and I know there are people that joined us from other companies and like relatively recently, like in the past couple years. And I do think when you affiliate with Sotheby's, like sometimes you just get opportunities that you didn't have before. So that helps with people. There's nothing you can do organically there, but I don't know if they like leverage the platform better. I don't want to call anyone out.
Serene, I have a thought. It's Nancy Markham.
Yeah.
I come from an architectural and design background and, you know, a lot of the higher end buyers are, you know, a little more savvy in terms of architecture or building construction or details or, you know, all of the above. But I know a lot of kitchens, you know, designer kitchen outlets or not outlets, but showrooms and that type of thing. And also if you can differentiate, like up here in Plano, it's a little easier because, you know, it was built, these are different subdivisions and even though I go back 20 years in this, I can still tell you who pretty much build in different subdivisions. And if I can't find it, I go into the tax rolls or I go back to old listings and I just, you know, see if maybe a house that sold 20 years ago, if they said who the builder was. But I try to make a point of understanding who the builders are in the different subdivisions and pointing that out to people and letting them know, you know, if they're still building today and what the quality level is. And really, I love to point out features of a home and how solid it is and just the quality of the materials and the construction methods. So I think the more you know about that, it just gives credence to the fact that you know what you're talking about, you know, quality, that type of thing.
Yeah,
But
I mean-
if anybody ever wants help with that, I'm happy to help them. But whenever I run comps, I always look at who the other builders are with the houses. And, even even when I, have an appraiser, go look at a house, I'll share with them the information about who built what house and why that's important and what those features are. And appraisers really appreciate that because I don't think they understand that. I don't think most of them do, at least, maybe down in Dallas they do, but in Plano they sometimes don't.
Yeah, and I think I will tell you, I guarantee you that like the clients that Nancy works with are like, we never want to go look at houses with someone else because Nancy really knows her stuff. You guys are not just agents that open doors, right? Like you're a million times more than that. So that's super helpful, Nancy. Thank you.
Sure.
One thing that I would like to add, I've been here almost a year and a half now, and this past year I was able to triple my business. And to Zareen's point earlier, the brand just opens so many doors and provides so much opportunity. I had come from a small boutique brokerage before that was really great. But leaning into our brand has really helped me go to the next level. Everything that's provided, at Sotheby's, it's almost overwhelming whenever you come in. There's so much, online that we can learn and use. Of course, reaching out to Sherry, she's kind of held my hand through a couple of large transactions, and it helped me, determine where my buyer's coming from and that sort of thing. But I had a really successful year, tripling my business. And then this year, all of this material, all these meetings with Sherry, Maria, Jennifer Edwards, I'm going to take what I've learned and I'm going to I think I'm going to split it up into 3 price points. But being organized for these, listing presentations is very important. And so I kind of want to just have like my marketing closet like ready to go. Sometimes I still kind of fumble around whenever I'm getting ready just because, we go constantly. And that's just something I've got to nail this year. Like I don't have time to fumble around for certain listings. So I kind of just want to have them like in a 3-stage segment, if you will. And maybe, Zareen, that's something you can help with. But does anybody else kind of need to do that with their marketing information as well?
You're talking about like get it organized and into a process.
Uh-huh. Yes.
I had definitely saw some heads nod. Katie said, yes, please. So, Jennifer does a listing resources class.
Mhm.
But if it's interesting, if there's a critical mass of people that want to do it, it's an interesting thought to think about, okay, like let's be intentional about offering this class and getting this group together to put together like what the process looks like for them. Again, everyone's going to pick and choose. I'll send out the summary of when those listing classes are happening, because those are part of our core trainings that happen on Tuesdays and Fridays at 9. So they are for sure on the calendar already in Q1. So I will send it to you guys. And then if you have other ideas about how to pull everyone together, I think that's great. And I'll put the list of the people that attended here so you guys can keep track too and connect with each other. But we're here to help, obviously, also. Thank you, Andrea. Guys, her success here has been like so phenomenal and exciting to watch. And I know it's possible and she's really leaned into the brand, but I also love to hear that she still feels like she has work to do, because that just means there's more room for improvement, which is awesome. So, all right. Anyone else have anything they want to share? Questions? It's 11:27. So if you need CE credit, please put your name and license number in the chat. Like I said, that's the way that I keep track. I love it. I love it. Okay. This was good. Thank you guys for coming. I appreciate you. That's all I got. I'll get the CE credit put in today. Bye guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Zareen.
Bye. Thanks, Michelle.
Bye.